TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It is Saturday. I always want to say Saturday morning, but it's not really morning yet. It's just turned afternoon. And this is In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb, and we go over baseball stuff on this show. And yesterday we went over some football stuff. So I'm just looking at my notes from yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty good day, right? We did Arizona on the show, and they went out to score 5 runs, and then Pittsburgh fought back, tied the game, and then Arizona's doing what they're doing with their offense, and took that one down for them, and Arizona was a winner. We talked about the Boston Red Sox. They had no issues yesterday. They got behind 2-1, I think was the score, but then they scored like 6 one of those innings and went on to win that game pretty handily. And we talked about Minnesota yesterday. So we gave out 3 plays yesterday, and they all won. So that was a good day. So we like 3 winners on 3 plays that we give out. And we talked a lot about how to fight through, losing spells and little spells and streaks that you have. And when you roll a strike, it's a pretty good feeling, and it doesn't mean that you ended everything. It just means that that was a good thing. So hopefully today we will continue that going forward. I wanted to talk about I'm going to talk about 2 of those games that are early games. I'm not necessarily I'll say this the right way. Like the Yankee game today, I think there's some value with the Yankees. But at the same time, I say there's value in the Yankees. I didn't bet it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I think there's the same situation with the Cubs. So we'll talk about that. And then I have 3 plays for you today. So we'll break those 3 plays down. We'll talk about some of these games. And then if anybody has any other games they want me to talk about, we can do that too, and kind of keep going from there. So it'll be interesting to see how the show progresses today. So let's look at the first kind of scenario here, because the Yankee game goes, I think, at 1:00, right? Isn't that when it goes? Where's my Webby odds? It tells me that. Yeah, 1:00. So let's talk about that one for just a second and sort of what I'm seeing here. First thing is you got Berrios pitching for Toronto, and you got Rodon's going for the Yankees. And I'll tell you that when you look at Berrios, and I'm going to pull up his numbers just because I want to share with you. I want to share with you what I see, and then probably what a lot of people see as a variance. So let me get to pitching. We'll go over his pitching, and the way I look at it is I'm always looking at their last 30 days because I want to know what they're currently doing. And let's go to the Blue Jays, and I don't need team, I need players. There we go. So Berrios is a guy that go there. All right. So if I go and just look at his regular stuff and look at the dashboard for him, for example, he shows up on here, and I don't need starting pitchers, not relief pitchers. There we go. Like, where's my pitchers? There they go. So he's made 4 starts in the last 30 days. And in those 4 starts, his WAR that he's earned, so his wins above replacement to another pitcher is 0.1. He personally is 1-2. He's thrown 21 innings. But what I really wanted to make sure that you kind of get an idea is, for example, Kevin Gausman is a 0.5 WAR. So that's a pretty significant jump when you're looking at one to the other one. Jay Berry says, "Hey, winning night last night. Great Saturday for baseball." And he asked about my Storm. Well, currently, it is pouring down rain. I don't know if you can hear it hitting the windows in my office here, but it's pouring down rain. In terms of the Storm, for me, I think that it's shifted just a little bit west, which is great for my situation, because ideally I think the Storm will surpass me. It's gonna go by me before it turns in. But things can change. That can certainly change. But if it's a tropical storm or small Category 1 storm, I've been through a lot of those, and I don't worry about them. I'm not boarding up windows. I'm not doing anything crazy. I will bring in my patio cushions and stuff like that, because I don't want them getting soaked. Well, we're supposed to get somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'm going to guess the smallest amount is 4 inches of rain, and probably the maximum amount is 8 inches of rain. So we get a lot of rain. It'll fill up any of the lakes and ponds and stuff that need some water, but it will get a lot of rain. But I don't think it's going to be a huge event here. I think it's just one of those things. It's more of a nuisance. Get it out of the way and move on to your Monday and Tuesday. So, but it'll be here. It'll be here tomorrow. So hopefully, when we do the show tomorrow, I've got power and everything's good, and we don't have to worry about it. But thank you for asking. I appreciate that. That was great. So we're looking at this Yankees game, and we're talking about Barrios. And what's important to get at is, I just talked about kind of where he's at for the last 30 days. But if I do the same exercise and I pull this up and I pull it up under the projection numbers, and this is going to be under streamer projected numbers, and I'm going to pull them up under pitchers, and we're going to go to Toronto. I think you're going to be kind of surprised here because where is he? There he is. So, you get 5 guys that are on a rotation, and the value to a guy like Barrios is he doesn't miss starts. And that's valuable because, you got like Kevin Gausman, who has missed some starts. You've got Yariel Rodriguez for them that didn't start off, the Cuban guy. He's kind of started here now, pitching a lot of games. And, they had Bowden Francis in there. They've had a lot of different things. So when you start to really look at his value, he just pitches. It's kind of like Chris Bassett. He goes out and pitches. But Bassett's a pitcher. And Barrios is having an off season. His projected WAR for the entire year is 1.1. And that's kind of for a guy like Barrios that signed a big contract, that's not very good. Yariel Rodriguez, for example, is a 1.2, and he's pitching half the time. So what my point of this conversation basically is they've got 4 guys that are starting for them right now, and Barrios is the worst one. So just holistically thinking about things, Toronto is starting their worst pitcher today against the Yankees, and that's probably not very good when the Yankees offense is hitting the way they are. Now, Toronto's offense is pretty good right now too, but that's coming from basically one guy. Guerrero Jr. is just good. So if the Yankees were able to find a way to get around get around him, then I think that they're in a pretty good spot. Now you do the same exercise for the Yankees, and you come across not a problem, but an understanding too that Rodon is supposed to be just as good as Garrett Cole, but he's not, right? I shouldn't say he's not. The old Garrett Cole that was projected at the beginning of the season because he got hurt. So Luis Gil is the best pitcher the Yankees have. And then he's followed by Nestor Cortez. And, Nestor's not the greatest guy in the world either, but they're right there. And then you have Rodon. And then kind of the way it goes is then you have Schmidt. But Clark Schmidt hasn't pitched. He got hurt. And that's been a big problem. The Yankees could have used him. And then you have then you have Garrett Cole that comes in, and then Marcus Stroman is kind of way the hell down there. So when you think about kind of what you've got going on, you've got probably the worst pitcher that the Blue Jays can throw out there. And if I looked at this one other way, I'm going to switch this to roster resource. I hope this doesn't mess up on me because Fangraph's website is very bad in terms of it's clunky and it ties up a whole bunch of memory and it's just not good. But Toronto has Gausman, Barrios, Rodriguez, Bassett, and Bowden Francis is listed as their starting pitchers. Well, Bowden Francis is a young kid that's trying to figure it out and hasn't. So he's a bet against kind of pitcher most of the time. So the point of what I'm trying to get at is Barrios, everybody thinks is one of these top-notch pitchers. Well, the reality is he's very hittable. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Where's my pitching report? I can tell you a little bit more. There we go. His Barrios batting average against is 258. Remember, league average is 240, 242, whatever, 240. But his whip rate's 1.57. So, almost, more than 1.5 guys getting on base per 9 innings. He's got a 4.57 walk rate. So he puts guys on base. So guys can get hits and he puts guys on base. And he's got an average strikeout rate. His hard hit rate is the hardest hard hit rate of all the pitchers today. So that means that, he's not really fooling guys. They're hitting the ball and they're hitting it on the good part of the bat. So his mistake rate then should be pretty high, and it is. It's the second highest mistake rate. His WPA is minus 0.58. Gordon from Colorado is minus 0.76. He's the worst one. So that tells me that when you look at this game, I think you cannot side with Toronto because Barrios is going to get hit. It's a matter of how hard and how many runs can the Yankees score. And then on the other side of it, you got Rodon. And Rodon, his last 3 starts, his game score 57. Oh, and I forgot to say, Barrios is off of a good start. It's his – so 6 starts ago, he threw a game score 67. So then he threw 35, 45, 26, 39, all below average starts. And then he threw a 71. So that's an outlier, right? I mean, that's kind of the outlier. For the season, he's at a 51. But the only concern I ever have with Barrios is he's been bad. But the reality is that in his starts, he's made 22 starts for the Toronto Blue Jays. And they're a below average team. They're not going to have a 500 record. But he's won 14 of the 22 starts. That's kind of amazing when you consider where he's at. His SOPS plus is a 108, so he's 8% worse than an average pitcher. He's basically that. He's just a little worse than an average pitcher, and an average pitcher at best. Rodon, over his last 28 days, SOPS plus is an 89. So he's 11% better than an average pitcher. So I like the idea that he's pretty good here. Oh, and by the way, the Yankees, they're number one against right-handed pitching of all baseball for the whole season. They're 24% better than an average offense. So I think the Yankees are going to hit him. He's not going to go out there and strike them all out. I mean, the Yankees strike out, but he's not going to strike those guys out in a dramatic degree. And theoretically, you'll find that I think that he's not going to be able to control. He's a 4.50 xFIP, so that's kind of high. It's not. It's high average, right? So he's kind of that. He's not in the top 25% worst of baseball, but he's getting there. He's pretty close in the last 30 days. So, my opinion in this game is that the Yankees are gonna win this game. They lost yesterday. You saw what Toronto did when they played Baltimore. They couldn't beat them at all. And I think in this particular case, you're going to get a good Rodon tonight, this afternoon. His batting average against right now is 194. Remember, 240 was the average, and they're going to have to work to hit. Now that doesn't mean they can't hit home runs against him, because he does give up the home runs. His strikeout rate though is 12.4, so less balls in play. He's going to strike guys out. So I think when you kind of combine where you're at, you've got one pitcher who's going to limit opportunities, one that's going to give opportunities. And that leads to the advantage to the Yankees. But the problem with this game, in my opinion, is trying to figure out how you bet it. Because my line that I made on this game, if I can get to the right screen now that I got all these other windows open, here we go. If I go there, my number on the game is Yankees minus 201. Well, it opened, and I shouldn't say opened. It was a line that has built up. The original thing this morning was it was minus 185 overnight, and I think I listed it in here at minus 190 or something. So there's a little bit of play with the Yankees there, but you got to bet minus 200 to get there. Well, you can't do that anymore because Circa's at 225, bookmakers at 235. So if you kind of look, it's minus 230. So that changes, all the value is gone. There's nothing there. Plus, who wants to go out and spend 230, right? So then when you switch it and you go and say, all right, well, what's your predicted score? All right, well, I come over here and get my predicted score. There we go. So my predicted score says Yankees 5.7 runs, so almost 6, and Toronto 4.5. Well, that puts kind of that 1.5 you got to cover. You got to win by 2 in jeopardy. So I don't really like that real well either. So then you go and say, well, damn it, you got to find a way because the Yankees have an edge here. How do you bet this game? Well, in the first 5 innings, you just have to win. And based on what I was looking at, my first 5 inning number shows Toronto at 1.8 runs and the Yankees at 2.6 runs. And I think that's where you go. Because if you switch this out and then you go first half and you go spreads and you go, where's my Yankee game? You're looking at minus 145, minus 150 Yankees in the first half. And that's way better than the minus 200, minus 230. It's you're not running into that, okay, now they got to cover 2. And when your numbers said they probably won't. So what I think is the play, if you're going to play the Yankees, is minus 145, minus 150. Now, I said that because the hard part sometimes of betting is going and finding where your edges are and how to bet them. And again, I'm looking at this going, do I really want to pay minus 145, minus 150? And the answer is no, I don't. But if you want to play the game, that's the way you play it. And And that's where I think that a lot of people sometimes go and say, well, I want to go and play on the Yankees because, they lost yesterday and they're going to beat the Blue Jays today. But I don't want to pay 200, so I'm just going to flip it into the first 5 innings, or I'm going to flip the numbers or whatever. Remember, and we talked about this, the run lines are not correlated to the money lines. The money lines is just about winning the game. The run lines, because you have a number you have to cover, those numbers are reflective and correlated to the total. So the total in this game, I think, is probably 9 or something, 9.5. And where is it? Oh, that's not what I want. That's what I want. So the total in this game is 9.5 or 10. And as it keeps going up and up and up, that's not good to try to cover a number. So this kind of theory in your head will apply to every sport. So if there's a lot of scoring expected, if there's an NFL football game and the total in the football game is in the 50s, obviously there's expected to be points. The same thing would apply to college football or whatever, or an NBA game at say 230. That's a lot of points. 240. It's a lot of points. In Major League Baseball, the average run line is 8.5. So if you have a total that's 9.5 or 10, and it's being bet up to 10, there's expected to be runs. Well, the only way you get runs is if both teams score. If both teams are scoring, and I don't mean runs, I just mean, scoring. And if both teams are scoring, that gives credence to the underdog to actually cover these numbers. So when you're looking at that, you want to limit the amount of opportunity that the underdog has to score. That's why you go look at it in a first 5, not a full game, and you limit the opportunity that Toronto has to score runs against the better pitcher matchup, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Because ideally what you're trying to do here is you're not trying to change a money line just to go bet the number. It's correlated to the total. And as that total keeps rising, that gives you more and more thought that Toronto is going to score runs. And if Toronto is scoring runs in this particular game, limit their chance to score runs by only betting them in the first 5 innings. And then play on the side you think has the edge, which we talked about just a minute ago. I think that the Yankees have the edge here. I think the Yankees are going to score runs. I think the Yankees are going to be given opportunities. And I think that the Blue Jays are going to have to work to get them. It doesn't mean they can't. It means I think they're going to have to work to get them. And if Rodon is good, then they're not going to get that many opportunities at all. So I like the Yankees in the first 5 innings. I just don't want to pay the price at minus 145. So if you have a opportunity because your bankroll is whatever your bankroll is, if you could put beer and pizza money on it, or if you like the game as a full unit play, then play it. Play your edges. But they have to make sense to you. It has to have the value that you want, and it has to fit into the criteria that you make your bets with. So I think in this particular spot for me, it just misses. I want to play them, and I probably would if they were minus 135. Is probably where I would play them. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Hopefully that was a reasonable breakdown on why you would bet a certain way and how you can try to find value on certain plays and make that value work for you. I just don't like to pay more than what I think I should. And I don't want to pay 145 or 150 If it was 135, I'd be betting it. It would be something that I certainly would bet. So anyway, that was play. I don't want to call it a play. That's if you want to play it, but it's not really. I think there's value there. I think you should, but it's not something I'm doing just because I think that the number's too high. But if your risk aversion is at a point where you don't really care, it's a good number for you, then play it, right? The other game that fits that scenario, it's very similar, is Cubs Cardinals today. I've liked the Cardinals for 2 straight days, and I'm getting hammered because I like the Cardinals for 2 straight days. But today I like the Cubs, and these rivalry games like this are kind of tough because you really should take into consideration that it's a rivalry game. And because it's a rivalry game, both teams really kind of want to win. And because of that, if one team has lost 2, they don't want to get swept in a rivalry game. They just don't. So the Cardinals might come out and play a little better. But data-wise, statistically-wise, break down the game-wise, this is a Cubs game all over the place. This is 100% Cubs. Now, the game opened with, this is Tyon and Gibson. The game opened, I think it was 120, and this morning it was like 115. I think it's 115 now, one of those things. So when you're doing this stuff, I think the reality comes in. I just got a message here. Hang on one second. Let me go into my thing. And make sure that I put the plays out for everybody this morning, and I got a message. Saying that they're not there. They can't see them. So let me check that real quick. That won't take but a second unless I closed my thing there. Let me get back into it. Sometimes when you get old, you post stuff on there and you gotta hit save or whatever, and you forget, and then it doesn't it won't post them if you don't save them to them. So let me go here and do edit. And let's see what we got, because that's not good. Trying to view the autosave. Yeah, it looks to me like I didn't do that. So it'll be there in a second. I gotta wait for my computer to update here. There we go. That's just terrible when you get old and you forget to do stuff. It is what it is, though, I guess, right? Let me make sure that I got it. Yep, there we go. All right. So now we're good. So we can move along here. Where's my go back to the guy. Tell him I'm sorry. Sorry. I forgot to hit the save button. It's kind of what you guys are wanting to hear me talk about, right? Is all the minutia of my world. All right. So anyway, let's go back to these games. So we're going to talk about the Cubs. The Cubs, they opened 120. It's now circa 115, bookmaker 112. Now, here's another good point that I want to make. As you're doing some of this stuff, you need to verify what you're looking at on all these screens. We've talked about that a little bit before, but and I'm not going to delve into it real deep. We'll do that. We'll do a show like that for football because, there's a lot of top-down betting you need to look at for football. But so the screen I'm looking at right now is a free screen from Wager Talk. And on there is Circa, Superbook, South Point, DraftKings, Caesars, Bet Online, Heritage, Bookmaker, right? And then they have a consensus line. I never look at the consensus line because it doesn't make any sense. So there are only, of all these sports books, There's only 2 of them that create their own number on here. Well, I shouldn't say that. South Point kind of does. So and Superbook kind of does. But when they're on here, you need to discern what is a sports book that puts out sharp numbers, and then what's a sports book that doesn't. DraftKings does not. Caesars does not. MGM does not. Heritage does not. Bet Online, maybe. But the reality is, bookmaker, Circa, they set the market. So when you're looking at understanding what the market is, you need to go to those 2 places. It doesn't matter what DraftKings or Caesars or Bet On. It doesn't matter what they have. Because if bookmaker or Chris or Circa move their number, all them other ones are moving their numbers. So they dictate to the market. And because they dictate to the market, don't even bother with the other ones until you kind of have your own understanding of what the line should be, and then shop the line to those other markets, because you're going to try to bet those markets and pick them off. So, for example, in this case, DraftKings is minus 120 on the Cubs, but bookmaker says it's 112, Circa says it's 115. So if you compare the value of 112 or 120, and you like, say in this case, you like the Cardinals, you can get them at the dog price at the best price. And that's where you bet. Now, if you like the favorite side, you better be betting them at 112 or 115, wherever you have an account, and you bet them there because that's the sharpest book. That's the right book. That's where you want to bet it. You're getting the best value at minus 112, right? The minus 112 versus the minus 120. That's great. That's great value. You're not paying the 120. You're only paying 112 to get the same team. You're getting a sale. So you buy them on sale. You don't pay extra. You don't want to pay extra. And that's what you do for all of these things is you have to understand who sportsbook wise sets the market, and then everybody else follows what they do and tries to entice you somehow to make bets there. So they change the numbers around a little bit and they do different things. And then you as a bettor, you want to go pick off those guys. Unless you're getting a good solid number where the line was made. Anyway, point being is that the number now is 112, 115. If you average the 2 together, it's like 113, 114 on Chicago. My number on this game is Chicago minus 120. The opening number was minus 120. Kind of happens a lot. When my number comes up and then I should look at what the opening number is, my number is a little closer to the opening number more often, and then the market moves it, and then you can buy stuff on sale a lot. So I like that. That's why I don't necessarily go out and react and try to bet overnight lines, because usually the market, when it reopens in the mornings, changes the numbers to make them more more bettable, I guess is the way I want to say it. Anyway, so this game, when you look at it, and I go back in and I say, all right, so that's the deal. So why are you saying there's value here? Well, first thing of value is Tyone. He's a game score 53 for the season, so he's a little better than average, but not quite all-star level. He's good. He's got average metrics, but the average metrics are getting closer to top 25% good. He's a 3.86 xFIP, 3.73 Sierra. That's not the wrong guy. 3.65 xFIP, 3.90 Sierra, and a 4.22 FIP. And Gibson on the other side has struggled. For example, his Sierra number is a 4.79. So you got a 1-run advantage with Tyone. 1 run just in the starting pitchers. and when you look at it from a perspective of XFIP, it's really close. It's 450 to 365, almost a 1-run advantage there. So why do we have that? Well, Gibson can't throw strikes. He's got a 3.92 walk rate. So he's putting basically 4 guys on base every 9 innings. That's not good. And his batting average against is 329. Holy cow, 329 and 179 whip rate. So almost 2 guys per inning are getting on base. That gives the Cubs a lot of advantage, especially when you consider Taillon is a 0.99 whip rate. The Cardinals are going to have to be very efficient, right, with their offense, because 0.99 whip rate, they're only getting 1 guy on, and the Cubs are getting 2. It's an unfair edge. And then Taillon, his last time he went out, he got bombed. He 25, game score 25. And this is the same guy who's a game score 53 for the season. In his last 7 starts, he's a game score 56. So what does that mean? Well, that means that he had an outlier. The outlier is not necessarily something that's going to be repeated. So his average normal game is a 53. If he throws a 53 today, he can win this game because the pitcher on the other side allows opportunities to the offense for the other team. So I like the idea that you run into, holy crap, Gibson can get hit. And then when I looked at situationally the spot, Gibson's a 130 SOPS plus. 130, 30% worse than an average pitcher. That's not good. And Taillon, 89, 11% better than an average pitcher. And I liked those things. But where I came up with, hey, I want to talk about this game, I think it's a very bettable game if you get less than minus 120. And we just shared that I don't know where your outs are, so it's hard for me to tell you to go bet a game. I don't know how fair it is. Maybe you guys can tell me. If I go and say, hey, go bet this game, but if it's at minus 120, don't. Is that fair? The reason I say that is because if it's minus 120, there's no value there. But if it's minus 115, let me put it in my calculator here. But minus 115, you got 2.2% EV positive. If you got minus 113 or 112, wasn't that one of the numbers? 112, you're at 3.4% EV positive. Those are bets you want to make. Those are spots where you don't want to pass them up. So I don't know how to tell you. I mean, I've got it written down as a show play, but it can't really be a show play unless your sports book has it where you need it to be. So if you're in a spot where you can get it at say 115 or better, bet it. If you can't, then pass on it. The value is not good enough. It's just not. So I don't know. I'm hoping that makes sense, right? Like the first game I was talking about, I hope it made sense of why you do the Yankees in the first 5 innings. This game, it has to have the right number. If it's the wrong number, then your value on that game is lessened and it goes away. And especially in a rivalry game where the Cardinals might really try to do some positive things here. The other good thing with this particular game, and we talked about totals a little bit, and this is probably a good continuation conversation with that. The total in this game is 8.5, so that's the average number. So they're not expecting anything to be but an average game, and if Taillon comes out and pitches a pretty good game, well, that just blows that away. And he's ripe to do that. So I like Chicago in this game. I think it's a good spot, but if you can't get below 120, if you can't get to 115, your value on the play kind of goes away. So look at it that way. So here's another spot that I think you can put beer and pizza money on anyway. About a week ago, the Oakland A's were the hottest team in baseball in terms of scoring runs and on offense, and they were just beating teams. Well, they beat up on the Angels anyway, but they were beating teams, and I don't want to say it's carried over because it's not really true. But they beat the Dodgers yesterday. It's pretty good for Oakland A's. But teams will cycle through that. They don't stay hot forever, and when they're hot and they're like exuberant hot, bet them no matter what until they lose. So that brings me to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks are in sort of a precarious spot today. They play the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they're underdogs to the Pittsburgh Pirates because Mitch Keller's on the mound for the Pirates. But there's no question. I mean, there's 100% no question, even though the Yankees are doing great on offense, and some of these teams are out there just blowing the door off the thing in offense right now. I mean, there's some big offenses happening. No team, not one team is doing what the Arizona Diamondbacks are right now. They are 84% better than an average team. They're scoring 9 runs a game. They've scored 54 runs in the last 6 games. How can you not bet that offense? Well, so you run into this, right? So yesterday, the Detroit Tigers played the Kansas City Royals, and Tariq Skubal pitched for Detroit. One of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best pitcher in baseball. What was the score of that game? It was like 10-2 that Kansas City beat them, and they beat Skubal. So good offenses that are really hot, like really, really hot. It don't matter what pitcher you put out there unless that pitcher is, a huge strikeout guy. Maybe it matters if Blake Snell's on the mound. Blake Snell's knocking out everybody right now. Threw a no hitter yesterday. So I would tell you that there's such a disparity in offense. You got the number 1 offense in Arizona. Pittsburgh's number 20. Isolated power, number 1 Arizona, number 22 for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is average right now. They're minus 1%. But that ranks 20 in offense. If you're a 0, right at the average number in offense, you're 20th. Offenses are really going crazy right now. They're 84%. They got 7 guys out of 9 in an offensive lineup that are over 1 WAR offensively. That's really good. And they got, if I break it out even farther than that, they got 5 guys that are over 2 WAR, 3 guys over 5 WAR. This is an offense that's going bananas. So it's going to take a Blake Snell kind of pitcher to stop this offense. So is Mitch Keller that? Well, let's look. So we go to starting pitchers, and you look at Mitch Keller. Well, the first thing you look at is 4.24 xFIP, 4.38 Sierra, and 4.36 FIP number. All average number, but high average number. He's not in the worst 25%, but he's above 50, right? He's above 50. He's not, he's not 75% or worse, but he's a 50% or worse pitcher right now at controlling the opponent's offense. And when I looked at it in terms of situationally, 100 is his number for the season. He's a 70 in his last 30 days, so that's pretty good. But when I pull this back and I look at it and I go, where's his issue, right? He's normally a pretty good strikeout pitcher, but he's not now. 6.5, worst 25% in baseball. So what does that really tell you? That tells you that Arizona is going to have balls in play. When you have the opportunity to have an edge in balls in play because your guys don't strike out all the time, man, take it. And especially with the number 1 offense in baseball. Keller doesn't walk a lot of guys. It's average, 2.52. Home run rate's 1. So, he gives up 1 home run a game. And then you kind of break it out, and he's like, batting average is 209, 104 whip. So he's an average pitcher or maybe above average pitcher. So if you have an average to above average pitcher going against the number one offense, what happens? We're not talking about this guy being Blake Snell. We're talking about this guy getting hit. And you kind of look at it from that perspective. Well, here's the issue. The issue becomes is what Montgomery do you get? I bet Montgomery the last time he pitched, and holy crap, he pitched terrible. I thought he was going to be good because the first guy he came up struck him out, and then I turned around and 9 guys batted later, and they just got 5 runs against him. So Montgomery is pitching today. This is his 3rd start off the disabled list. He threw a 16. That's what he threw his last time out, and I bet on him when he threw a 16. Isn't that awful? And then the time before that, so his first start off the disabled list, I should call it the injured list. He threw a 60. That's what this guy should be throwing. He's not an ace, but he's a good pitcher. And he's had struggles all season long with all of this, right? Because he started late and, all the contract negotiation and all that, whatever. He was behind the 8 ball to start with. But a game score 60 is really good, and a 16 is an outlier the other way. His season average is a 41. That's well below where he should be. He's normally like a 55, 56, 57 kind of pitcher, all-star kind of level guy. So he's well off of that. So he's had struggles the whole season. So what pitcher do you get? Well, I don't know. But I think there's value in the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you get Montgomery, who's going to pitch a decent game and hold the Pittsburgh offense down, I don't see how Arizona can lose the game because Arizona's offense is that good. And the bullpen has gotten better for Arizona. Situationally, they're in a good spot. They're scoring 9 runs a game. I think that and they're an underdog. So, they're not a big underdog, but they're still an underdog. So the question becomes is, how do you decide whether you want to do that? Well, you have to decide what the numbers fair is. And in my what I did, my number comes out that Pittsburgh is minus 109. So if you get anything, and what's the number right now? The number is Arizona 115. So 115, that means, Arizona's plus 105. That's small value, but it's good enough value for me for the number 1 offense in baseball. You bet it. But it's not great value, and then you're taking a risk on Montgomery. So this is one of those where you talk about beer and pizza money, and you sit there and you go, okay, beer and pizza money. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Some of you are Deegans out there, and you just want action, right? You want as many games as you can bet, and you want them out there. Well, this is a play for you, and maybe so are those other 2 that we talked about. If you're very disciplined, and you only bet your edges and maximum edges, this is not a play for you. So I want to make sure that as we talk about these games and where they fit in, think of them that way, right? Think of them as, for me, I have a real hard time betting games like this because I don't bet beer and pizza money games. I tell people that let's just say your average bet, I'm just going to make this number up. Say your bet's $50. That's your unit size. And if you're in a casino, you have to walk over to the window, and you got to go, here's my $50. And I'm going to give you that $50 with the anticipation that I'm going to come back in, 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm going to get 100. But I worked my ass off to get this $50. It's very valuable to me, and I'm going to give it to you with the idea that you're going to give me $50 more plus my $50, right? So you have to have conviction in your bet. You gotta be, this is what I'm doing, right? Now it's real easy, like a video game on a computer on your phone, to push that little button. and then you can talk yourself into these beer and pizza bets. I'm trying to talk you out of doing beer and pizza bets, but I know some of you guys out there love to make bets. Look, I like as much action as the next guy. I might bet 7 bets in a day, but if I make those 7 bets in the day, they were disciplined, structured. This is my plan. These are my bets because that's the maximum value I have. And there happened to be quite a few of them that day. I told you it was okay to not make any bets. Well, sometimes you come across spots where you don't make bets. So you don't make them. And, I always feel weird when that happens. And it's happened. I've done that 3 or 4 times this year. And I'm like, holy crap, I didn't make any bets today. That's just weird. And then I'm like, well, what do I do now? Because I'm not betting right this second. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is this is a bet. Find a spot for it if you feel like it. If you don't, then you don't. But don't pass up these offenses that are going bananas. And it doesn't matter who they play unless, there's only a couple pitchers right now that would fit that bill. I mean, Dylan Cease is going crazy right now, and Blake Snell, and neither one of those guys are on the mound today. So I would tell you that this is a spot where you can go and say, hey, Arizona, good idea. All right, so now we're going to get into the real stuff. This is the Houston Astros playing the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm here in Tampa, so I get I'm close enough to Tampa. I get a little bit of I don't want to say inside information. That's not the right way to say it, but I get the local news and I get the local what's going on and where things are at. And this is kind of a team that's trying to figure it out. Offensively, they're a team that's I don't think they're as bad as people think they are, but at the same time, they're not a team that leads the league. And the last couple of years, they've been a team that's been up there in terms of run scoring and doing things and making things happen offensively. The years before that, they were always about pitching. So this has been a weird team that way. And some of their guys, they're starting to bring up some younger guys. So you're going to start to see the Rays and that you might not even know who they are. And that starts a little bit today. And they're playing. The Rays have Lytle on the mound, and Lytle's pitching against Blanco for the Astros. And my number on this game is I have Astros minus 141, and I think the number's like minus 150 last time I saw it. And I like the Astros today. So how do I bet this game? Especially when my numbers say that you're paying too much of a premium. So we're going to break this down in a different way. So if you take this game and look at the total in the game is 8. We said 8.5 is kind of the average. So this is a little bit below average. So they're not expecting very many runs. So if they're not expecting very many runs, that sort of limits what the underdog's going to do in the first place. So now I'm starting to look Houston even more. So that leads to then to look at run lines. Well, I didn't like the game run line. And the reason I didn't like the game run line is because Houston's offense isn't going crazy. It's actually struggling. And I'm like, well, what's going on with Houston? Houston's scoring 3.7 runs a game. They're 25th in offense. They're minus 11% to a regular offense. I'm going, I don't get it. So where am I at? What am I like? Why do you like Houston if the offense isn't good? Well, here's why. I go over to the situational side, and Lytle's on the mound. Lytle's a 132 SOPS plus. So remember what SOPS plus is and does. It's slugging percentage plus on base percentage, and it's structured in a way that unifies and makes every stadium the same. and then it's a projected number or a predicted number. So 132 means he's 32% worse than an average pitcher. And then that says, okay, Houston, you got a little bit of an edge, even though your offense isn't good. And then Blanco is an 80. So he's 20% better than an average pitcher. And then you look at it and you go, okay, Tampa Bay, your average offense is now below average, right? So that, they're not scoring either. So when you pull up the offense and you go Tampa Bay's 3.8 runs per game, Houston's 3.7 runs per game, kind of average in there, kind of about the same. And I sit there and I go, all right, so now I got a pitching edge. But if I really look at it from a structure of, if I went 9 innings, maybe the Tampa Bay offense is getting more opportunities to score than they should, and they're the underdog, so I don't want that. So that's why I ended up sort of getting them to a first 5. And when I looked at it from a perspective of, my pitcher's pretty good, he's going to hold this offense down pretty good. Lytle on the other side, he's not that good, 32% worse than an average pitcher, and situationally at 32%, he's not the worst guy on the board today, but he's not good. So then I switch over and I look at it and I go, where's Lytle at? Where's Lytle? There he is. He's got average metrics, 4.33 xFIP, 4.32 Sierra. Blanco on the other side, 3.89, 3.73. So you've got an edge, almost a 1-run edge that way. Then I looked at strikeouts, right? So strikeouts, balls in play, Blanco, 9.42 strikeout rate. That's kind of high. It's not, it's high average high. It's not like 10 or 11 or whatever. He's not dominating, but limits balls in play. Lytle 7. Okay. It's average, but it's kind of low average. And what that means is balls in play edge to Houston. So everything is moving up for Houston. Everything is moving down for Tampa Bay. Then when I slide it out just a little bit farther on the screen, walk rate's about the same, but home runs, 2 per game for Lytle. That's not a good thing. Batting average against, 2.93. All good things for the Houston offense. Then I looked at Blanco, 1.84 batting average against, and he has a 0.98 whip rate. Guys don't get on base. So Tampa Bay is going to have to work and work and work. So I like the idea here that Blanco is going to limit the opportunities and Lytle's going to give the opportunities. And when it came to the WPA, you can only imagine that this is not a good spot either. And it's not. Minus 32 for Lytle and plus 23 for Blanco. That means that Blanco's making way more good pitches, putting the ball in the right spot, getting good outcomes. And Lytle is making worse pitches, right? He's making more mistakes than he is good pitches. So that led me to all of that, led me to go and say, I can get Blanco first 5 innings just to win the first 5 innings. Not money line, because you don't want to pay that high price. It's minus 110. I think there's value there. So bet it. That's first play. That's what I gave out today. That's bet number 1. Houston Astros on the run line in the first 5 innings, minus a half a run. Now, this next game is a weird spot too. I don't want to say weird. It's how often do you bet on a guy that you really don't know? Well, you need to get to know them. That's the first thing. So the Atlanta Braves are throwing a guy named Holmes today. Well, he's been a good pitcher, really good. He's been a relief pitcher, and I was surprised. Like I expected him to go like 2 innings, 3 innings. He went 5 the last time he pitched, and boy, he was dominant. He's a big arm strikeout guy. So Holmes is pitching. His xFIP and Sierra numbers 3.51, 3.03, 2.51, all in the top 25% of baseball. The best in the league. 9.82 strikeout rate, home runs 0.49 home runs per 9 innings. All of those top 25% of all of baseball. He's going to get the Miami Marlins today. Well, the Marlins have been pretty good lately on offense, But I think that he's pretty dominant in terms of getting these guys out. So then I go, well, the Braves are kind of waking up. They're winning games, and I looked at the offense on these teams, and when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, Braves 11. That's okay. That's better than where they've been. Marlins 15, not differentiated enough, right? There's not a whole lot there. But here's where it comes in. What are teams trying to do? Go look at the isolated power, and you'll know what an offense is trying to do. That's trying to be damaging blows. That's home runs, doubles, triples, extra base hits. That's what they're doing. Atlanta Braves, number two in all of baseball right now. Then you look at where Miami is, and they're 12th. That's a big gap. So yeah, they're almost top 10, but they're not. And Atlanta's top 3, right behind Arizona, for example. And you sit there and go, really? That's really a big deal. So then you flip it back and you go, all right, so that tells me that they should be scoring runs. Atlanta's scoring 5 runs a game right now. That's above average. That's pretty good. They're not, 6 runs, 7 runs, 8 runs, or whatever, like some of these teams get on a run and do sometimes. We talked about Arizona scoring 9 runs a game. Holy crap! You got to bet them. But 5 runs. So then I looked at who are they facing today. Well, they're facing Tyler, and Tyler's a kid. He's made 5 starts. In those 5 starts, his game score average is a 45, so below average, not good. It's not terrible because there's some of these guys that I don't even know why they're still pitching, but 45 is not good. He's 43 over his last 3 starts, and he has average metrics. He's got a high walk rate, 4.5 per 9 innings, but he gets hit. Batting average against 339, and his whip rate 186. So almost 2 guys per inning are getting on base, whereas against Holmes, it's 87.87, not even 1. Big difference. Strikeouts, big difference. Balls in play, way less for Miami. So that gives a big edge to Atlanta. Now, where this was always hard to bet against Miami, especially on the run line, is they had a really good bullpen. Well, they just traded all those guys. They're not there anymore. So now that opens the door for the back end of the game to also help cover numbers. So I like the idea that you can take this game and we talked about it. Let me go back to where this game goes. Here we go. So this game is Atlanta's minus 245. That's a big number, right? You don't want to pay that. And the total in the game is 9. So a little more than average. So when you start to then kind of start thinking about where they're at and what they're doing, that means there's going to be some runs. Well, think of it this way. Flip it to team totals, and you'll get an idea of what they're supposed to be. Where is it supposed to look like? Well, this is supposed to be 5.5 for Atlanta, 3.5 for Miami. So that gives you the gap to get to the 9. So now you can sit there and go, okay, well, what's more likely to happen? Atlanta to get to 5.5, 5, 6, or is Miami going to get to a point where they can get over 3 to over 4 to get to that 9? Well, we just talked about how good Holmes is. He's strikeout guys, limiting guys on base. That drops that number for me. And then Tyler on the other side gives up hits, gives up runs, gives up a lot of stuff, puts guys on base. Opportunity there goes for the Braves. So I like, and remember, what are we doing when we're talking run lines? I'm not talking money lines. I'm talking totals. So that's what you're doing. You're looking at total numbers and kind of because you got to cover. So then I looked at, well, what does my score predictor say? My score predictor comes out in this game, and it goes, and it says Atlanta's going to score 3 in the first 5 innings off this kid, and then they're going to score a couple more later on in the game. It's going to be 5.5, 6 runs. Well, there you go. And then I looked at it and I go, that could expand because when I'm looking at the way my score predictor works, it works off of hits and runners on getting on base. It doesn't work off of runs scored. It doesn't care how many runs you scored. It wants to know how many hits you give up, because based on a certain number of hits you give up, you're going to give up runs. So it's calculating based off of runs or hits allowed, not anything more than that. And Miami, over the last 14 days in their bullpen, has had a great bullpen. Well, that's going to change, so I think that number can grow, if that makes sense. I don't think that the Miami's bullpen is nearly as good as it used to be. They got rid of all their better pitchers. So I like the idea that Atlanta can expand on that. So I think there's value in Atlanta on the run line today. And if you play them on the run line, -1.5, it's -115. And you're counting on Holmes to be good and Atlanta's bullpen to hold down when he comes out of the game. And then when you look at that, you go, well, give it to my number, pitchers, bullpen. You go to that, and Atlanta's bullpen right now is third in baseball, number 3. So I'm going, yep, I'm good with that. I think Atlanta can hold that. And I think Miami's is going to slide, and I think that the Atlanta Braves are going to cover 1.5. So I like that play. That's play number 2. I will also share an idea to bet Dodgers today, but I would bet them in the first 5 innings. They're minus a half a run. I didn't do it, but because this is one of those spots again where if you're a Deegan and like to get action, this is a play. It just doesn't have value, but it's a play. Flaherty pitches for the Dodgers today, and the Oakland offense a week ago was top-notch, number 1, scoring tons of runs. Well, now they're 20th. And they beat the Dodgers yesterday. But Flaherty's going to go shut them down, I think. Now, I will tell you, Flaherty, when he was with the Tigers, did pitch against Oakland before, and Oakland beat him up a little bit. But he hasn't pitched for several days, got some good rest. I think Flaherty's going to be top-notch Flaherty today. And when Flaherty's top-notch Flaherty, they're not going to score very many runs. And I think the Dodgers are going to get Spence, right? That's who they face. The Dodgers don't usually have a problem on offense, but they're not been good. This Dodger team that you're seeing right now, they're not the real Dodgers. Ohtani's out there, Teoscar Hernandez is out there, but this team's going to change in a couple weeks when they get all their players back. They just got to get through all that time. But Spence, he's a 132 SOPS plus, 32% worse than average offense. And what you're banking on is Flaherty. He's a 17, 83% better than an average pitcher. Oh my God. So he's throwing very well. The Dodgers as a season are 15% better than an average offense against right-handed pitchers. And Spence isn't that good. Spence is not a big strikeout guy. So balls are going to be put in play. His metrics are 4.90, 5.07, 6.83. 25% worse of all of baseball. And that's not a recipe for success against the Dodgers. It's just not. Don't forget that some people like to root against the Dodgers. Some people like to root against the Yankees because, some people like to root against the Red Sox or whatever. You got to respect who those teams are. You have to. And the Dodgers, you got to give them credit for who the Dodgers are. They still have talented players that are probably better than the Oakland A's players, even though the Oakland A's might every once in a while peak up here and peak up there and spurty be good. Gavin Lux, for example, would be one of the best players on the Oakland A's, if that makes sense. So when you're starting to break these things down, you got to put things into perspective. And when you have a guy that's in their worst 25% of baseball on the mound going against the Dodgers, you bet the Dodgers. And then you can get the Dodgers with one of the best pitchers in baseball making his first start for them. First 5 innings, minus a half a run. They just got to win the first 5 innings, minus 120. I think you do that. And I think you'll find that sometimes just logical thinking can make some sense, right? So they have Glass now with the Dodgers. Well, who's the next best pitcher the Dodgers have? Well, it's Flaherty. He's the next guy. He's as good as Yamamoto, and Yamamoto may not pitch the rest of the time. He's better than Stone. He's better than Kershaw. So he's the guy, and he's going to go out and be the guy and beat and they'll beat Oakland today. The last one is an actual play. I think this is one of those spots where you go and you pick on teams. How often do the Philadelphia Phillies travel out and play in Seattle? Not very often. And Seattle. So here's Seattle's got a big time home edge that way, and they have a pitcher today in Miller who loves to pitch at home. He's really, really good at home. And Philadelphia doesn't want to travel. They don't want to be there. Maybe they're having fun, being out there. But I will tell you that what if I said this? Let me switch this over, and we're going to say this in a way that might make you think just a little bit. So if the lineup for the Phillies in the Phillies lineup has Schwarber's the leadoff guy, right? So it goes Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Marsh, Realmuto, Castellanos, right? That's who they got. And when those guys are all clicking, holy shit, you want to bet them and write them and be on them and do all the stuff, right? So what if I told you that I'm going to go over here to offensive teams, players, pitching, batting. We're going to go to the Phillies. And we're going to look at the Phillies hitters for the last week and see what we got going on for the Phillies for the last week, last 7 days. And we're going to put them by offensive WAR. And then we're going to say, okay, I don't want all that. We want 10 at-bats. So, okay. So Schwarber's doing great. 5.7 WAR, leading their offense, doing well. Alex Bohm, 1.7 WAR, so he's above the number. But he's not carrying they're not hooking on to him, and he's not leading the way. They're doing that with Schwarber. And then you got Marsh at 1.2. They got three guys. Who's missing? Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Realmuto. So Trey Turner, minus 3.5 offensive WAR. Bryce Harper, minus 4.4 offensive WAR. When your number 2 hitter and number 3 hitter are dragging your offense back, you're not going to win games. You're not. Your offense is not going to get to where it needs to go. So if you put a good pitcher in front of this offense, the way it is right now, you can't win unless your pitcher is dominant. So let's look at that. So if you go over and you switch this over to Miller, and you go and say, why are you telling me how good he is? Well, at home, he's a SOPS plus 50. He's 50% better than an average pitcher when he pitches at home. For the last 28 days, he's a 46, 54% better than an average pitcher. He's made 21 starts. They've won 12 of them. He's really good. And who are they going to face today? Well, they switched this around a little bit, so don't get too confused. It says Okring is the starting pitcher. Remember, Okring is a relief pitcher, so he's going to end up being a opener. He's going to go 1 inning, maybe 2. And he hasn't been good. And then you have Allard, who's going to come in and pitch. He was the listed pitcher before. Allard has only made 1 start in the last 2 years. And in those starts that he made, that last start, he pitched 4 innings, gave up 6 hits. Not the greatest start in the world. And he's pitched 5 times against the Phillies before, He's been around. He was a Ranger and stuff. He's been around. It's not like he's a young kid. He pitched 17 innings, gave up 24 hits, has a game score of 35 and an earned run average against the Phillies of 11.42. Well, that's not very good. So then I looked at it and I go, what do we got going on here? You want to bet Seattle? Hey, Marty Lowe, how are you, brother? It says happy Saturday. Thank you. You want to bet Seattle or any team when their offense is really good, but Seattle, especially when their offense is clicking, because they got pitchers. Seattle can pitch, every one of them. So then you go and say, where's the offense at for Seattle right now? Number 4. Since they got Randy Arozarena, that offense is going taking off. They are scoring 6.8 runs a game. They're 4th in offensive WAR. They're 5th in isolated power, 38% better than an average offense. And of all the teams today, all 30 teams, they got the most guys helping their offense. They got 8 guys carrying the load. And they only got 2 guys that are pulling away from the load. This is a spot where you're going to get the Mariners at a low favorite price when theoretically they could be a middle to high favorite price. And I have my number on the game is 124, and you can get them at 113, 110. So you're getting them on sale. So I think that's the third play. That's where you want to go, and you want to go Seattle with Miller against the Phillies. And I think that's how we wrap up the show today, guys. Look, again, we got a lot of people watching the show today, and it's awesome. I mean, it's great. We're doing so well with getting followers on the show. Let's just keep working at it, guys, because the goal is I can't go to a company and go, hey, look, I want you to sponsor my show. And get the advertising on here or whatever. We got 220 people out here watching the show live right now. That's really great because a lot of these guys don't get nearly that following. So I appreciate that 100%. But we're gonna need to keep working at it. So help me out because we need to get this number to say 400, 500. That's kind of where it's got to go. But as we're doing this, we're still growing. We're still doing a lot of things. Hopefully people are learning stuff. We're getting some engagement, some days more than others. Yesterday was really engaging, Jay, with questions and so forth. Jay's made a couple of good questions and some good things. Marty says hello. Guys, when you're on here, make if you have questions, just type them in. It comes right to me. I can see them. When the show's over, you make comments, make comments to the show, do different things. That helps it grow. If you retweet the show, that helps too, because then people see it that don't normally, that aren't really following us, that get the chance to see it. So retweet, all that stuff that those people that do this for a living kind of stuff, do videos and stuff, do to help the show. Because ultimately I want to get a big sponsor. I want the sponsor to pay for this, get some other stuff going on so we can do some slides and do a lot of stuff so you don't have to see my ugly face all the time. So please help with those kinds of things. If you want to be a member and you want to be a customer of mine, it's $100. Yeah, you'll get the football plays, the baseball plays, all that stuff. I'm not trying to rip anybody off. It's $100. Helps pay for this kind of stuff. I don't use your money to gamble with. Trust me, it's not enough. So if you want to sign up, go to mlb-day.com, click the button. It's $100, and then you get access to stuff on my website. So there's a premium channel on my website where all this data stuff that I talk about, I publish every day. I put it out there, and people like it. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. But anyway, point being is I put other stuff on there for free. There's other information and stuff. And if you want to just go to the website and become, sign up for the free website, for the free newsletter, just do that. Go there, sign up. you get when I post something online or I post something on the website, it goes right to you. You know, you don't have to search for it. So what do they say? Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff. You do that stuff, help the channel grow. And you know, yesterday we had a pretty good winning day. Let's see if we can carry that forward today, and hopefully this storm will stay away from me. And we'll be on tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a noontime show, and we'll do the same thing. So guys, good luck. Let's make some money today. Let's win some baseball bets. And thank you for coming on board. You know, I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend.